Hello everyone, in today's videos we're going to make your head spin. Not only are we going to be dealing with inheritance in Python, but we're going to be doing multiple inheritance in Python. Oh boy, this is a ton of fun. The good news is multiple inheritance is not nearly as scary as you think it is. The bigger problem with multiple inheritance is trying to find a fun example where you need to do a lot of it. But we'll go ahead and fiddle with it anyway because we can. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and create ourselves three classes. We're going to have two parent classes, and of course we're also going to have a class that is going, I'm going to call it like a toy class or something like that, basically for the purposes of sucking all the details out of the other ones and actually going to town. Let's do it. So let's go ahead and start with a big class. I'm going to go ahead and class thing. Whoa, very specific. So we'll go ahead and define this thing, and I'll keep it really, really simple here. Let's see here. What is our working thing? Name and a function. Super duper duper basic here. So we'll go ahead and say self.name equals name, self.function equals function. I like that. Nice and simple. Let's create our describe. I'll keep it easy today. Describe, I like that. So obviously we're passing ourselves, and we'll keep it easy. Return f string. It is a self.name, and function is function. Haha, not bad. Cool. So now we have a very, very simple class here. Did I goof up function? Nope, self.function. Thank you for that. And of course, self function. Self.function. Sehr gut. So that works pretty well. I like that. It works no problem. Let's go ahead and test it. Let's see here. I guess we'll use toaster equals, we'll create a new thing, call it a toaster. Toast stuff. Nice. So now if we wanted to print toaster dot, actually, wait a minute, we got a thing for this. Toaster dot describe, just like that. If we were to run this real quick, we can see here it is a toaster, and its function is it's toast. Not exactly complete English here. We'd have to do a little bit of parsing to make this a little cleaner. So that is our first class. Basically, it's a thing, and it works pretty well. Just for clarity, what I'm actually going to do here is I'll go ahead and comment these two bits out because I don't want it to confuse us too much. So let's go ahead and create another class. This one's going to be color scheme. You see where I'm going with this. And the color scheme class is basically going to exist for the purposes of I'm keeping track of surface finish because science. It's yelling at me because I spelled something wrong. That's okay, though. And this class is going to be pretty straightforward. Again, I'm not going to do anything too insane here, because if I do anything too insane, it's going to make me absolutely crazy. Oh, boy. Let's go ahead and clean that up real fast so we don't have to look at the red. There we go. It's a little better. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do some self here, and we're going to keep it really simple. Finish. Well, why not? Self.finish equals finish. Nice. I'll go ahead and be careful here. We're going to make ourselves another one. We'll do a describe because science. And we're going to pass ourselves one more time. Return f, the finish is finish. Oh, self.finish, because remember getting the value of it out of the instance there. Self.finish. Cool. Let's make sure that works. Let's see here. Scheme yellow, blue chrome. We'll keep it nice and simple here. Blue chrome equals color scheme, and the name of the finish is blue chrome. Ooh, fancy. Let's go ahead and test it to make sure it works. I'll print blue chrome. Blue underscore chrome dot describe just to double check to make sure that works. Run my code. Bam. The finish is blue chrome. Now you're sitting here going, okay, I see where you're going. So you have an object, you have a color scheme, but what you're really trying to do is you're trying to combine both of these together. Now, there's a couple different ways we could do this. Of course, we could take the color scheme and extend the object, but what if we wanted the bits of the color scheme to be separate? Maybe we have 30 or 40 individual methods in here that do something fancy. Now we're going to get complicated. So what I'm going to do is set up some inheritance here. And what my inheritance is going to do is it's going to create an object from these two classes. We can see how this gets a little scandalous here. Let's do it. So I'm going to create a class called toy. And my toy class is going to inherit not one, but two other classes. And obviously precedence matters here. The first one's going to be thing, and my second one is going to be color scheme. Now, here's where things are going to get complicated. Remember how we had all that initialization and all that sort of stuff? We need to kind of think about that a little bit as far as how we're going to be playing with that for the purposes of initializing all of our different components here. The other thing is we need to think about the toy itself, what makes it a little bit different. We'll deal with that in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and create my init here, and it's going to get a little messy. So I need the name of the toy, I need the function of the toy, I need the finish of the toy, and need a sound it makes. Why not? So let's go ahead and get our standard stuff. We're going to do our self, and this is where it gets so cool because we can basically inherit everything off of our other components. Now, if you remember last time we typed in super like this, we did our super like this, and we got what we need. We have two separate objects we're inheriting details from. So we have to actually name them based on what they are. So instead of typing super here, I'm going to type in thing dot. This is where everybody gets a little scary in it. Remember, we did this before. And now what we have to do is sort of dial in the details we need. So fortunately for us, we're just going to initialize the self. We're going to initialize the name, and we're going to initialize the function. Nice and easy. So what we're doing here is we're basically grabbing the thing, which consists of name and function, and we're initializing it based on all the fun stuff that we've actually just passed up above. Pretty easy. So now what we're going to do is we're going to grab that other class we created, which was called Color Scheme. Color Scheme, why not? In it, go ahead and make it nice and simple. We're going to pass it again, and of course we need to define the finish. Now the nice thing is we have the finish, and we're actually taking this value for finishing, shoving it here. We're grabbing this function here and shoving it in here. We're grabbing this name and shoving it in here. So now what we've done is we've grabbed all of these properties from those other two classes we've inherited from, and we've basically done that. So the only thing we have left to do here is do the sound that it makes. Kind of easy. We can just do sound that it makes. So now we've added our little kind of a tidbit here that we can kind of go ahead and play with. So let's go ahead and make a separate method here. I'm going to go make a, we'll call it make noise. Why not? Make noise self and print. We'll have some fun here. Let's see. Self dot name makes a self dot sound it makes sound. Cool. I like that. That looks pretty good. And then all we have to do now is go ahead and define our describe function that we had before. So let's do it. So I'll do my def describe self, and this is where it gets messy. So remember a little while ago that we had this little piece up here where we have this nice little kind of components that we could just kind of grab stuff over here and basically kind of get all the different bits. Well, this is where it gets kind of interesting. And we have to be kind of cautious with this, and I'll show you why. Because let's see, we want to go ahead and return self.get describe. Now your brain is going, I don't like that. I don't like that at all, because you're saying describe yourself from yourself. That's yourself. That's yourself. What? What happens when you run that kind of code? Well, let's take a look. So if I say a little car, a red car, let's go ahead and create a toy. And there's a lot of things, a red car. We'll call this let's see here. Drives on floor. Drives on floor. Oh, probably. On floor. Keep it nice and simple. Let's go ahead and say the sound it makes. It makes a room. Actually, my finish, sorry. My finish is shiny red plastic. And of course, we'll go ahead and finish this one off by the sound it makes. And the sound it makes, we said varoom. Now watch what happens when I do this. You're going to get a massive, nasty error because you're trying to refer to yourself from yourself, from yourself, that's from yourself, from yourself, from yourself, from yourself. And it actually went 996 times there. That was a pretty nasty infinite loop. So you're sitting here going, that didn't work. Okay, fine. Let me change the way I do it then. What if I wanted to do something like this? Let's see, I would say part 1 equals, let's see here. We can go back up to the original superclass. We can do thing.describe. We could do part 2 equals color scheme.describe. And of course, we could simply return, we'll go ahead and make this one, part 1 plus part 2 plus f, what do we say? And it makes a sound colon, I'll do self dot sound it makes. So now if we were to run this, what you'll observe is it's going to freak out a second time because it is unable to grab that particular component from those two different elements. And the reason that's going on here is it's basically cannot figure out what it's supposed to do. Now, this is one of those things where multiple inheritances gets messy. We need to get into this one, but we can't get into this one because this is calling for a class method. We need a method for ourselves. But the problem is if you do self.describe, you're going to be describing yourself to yourself, which makes it impossible to basically reach in and get that value that we want. The reason for this is because each one of those functions, in this particular case, if we're having two of the same name functions, there's no way for it to know which specific one we have. As a matter of fact, when I run the self.describe, I'm actually overriding both of those self.describes in order to make mine down here. So that does not work. So how would I reach in and try to get all those values out of here without having to stress out, going back to that part 1, part 2 there. Ideally, we want to have some sort of way to grab it, but we just can't do that because we basically get ourselves in an infinite loop. Now, this is where it's challenging. So what I'm going to do is run back up to my original thing, and I'm going to just change it to describe thing. I'm going to come down to my describe, and I'll make it describe finish. Now, watch this. I'm going to come in here. Self dot describe thing. Describe finish. So what we've done here is we've actually gone ahead and grabbed those two values that were grumpy, and we've grabbed them as separately named methods. So we're no longer overriding the method. We're only going to be using the individual components of it so that we can then create our own version of it called describe. Actually, if we wanted to be smart, we'd probably call this one describe toy. So that way when we use it, it's a little bit clearer what we're actually doing with it. So now if I run, it is a red car, and its function is it drives on the floor. The finish is shiny and the plastic sound room. Now, the cool thing here, I like this. If I do red car, dot make noise, like that, if I actually run this, it'll go vroom. And you can actually see how I've added onto that. So the important thing to remember here is when you start building your own methods, if you use the same name method as in the parent classes, especially when you got a lot of them, it's going to be overriding it. Remember, once we start doing this double inheritance business, we lose that ability to grab it because you're grabbing the components out of here, building your toy class from these components, but those components are no longer directly accessible. That was something we could do in the superclass, but it is not something we can do once you start having multiple things being inherited into one program. Enjoy.